People who have had sex with someone with a disability of some sorts. What was different about that experience? I'm disabled and have fainted during sex due to a heart condition. My partner thought he healed me. I have a friend with benefits still. She was born with some issues, which resulted in both of her legs being amputated at the thigh, as well her left arm, amputated at the elbow. She scoots around her apartment on a skateboard. It's awesome. Anyways, imagine a 90-pound skinny girl with no legs and half an arm. Basically she liked to be manhandled and used. Also the term sit and spin was very true with her. There are a myriad of positions you can now do when the other person is only half a person. A girl I dated has a brachial plexus injury from birth, nerve damage that rendered her right arm mostly paralyzed. The 6 was 10/10 girl was a freak. The only thing was that every once in a while her right arm would stiffen up and stick straight out in front of her, and I would have to awkwardly move it out of the way while not trying to break the mood. Edited, once in a while. I had a brief relationship with a dwarf. I expected the 6 to be awkward because I'm 6 feet 2, but it was actually very natural because her torso was typically sized and everything lined up like it should. Something that was different was that I could easily lift her for an extended time, so we could do some stuff I can't really pull off with full-sized girls. It was a lot of fun. I've had sex with a girl that had minor multiple sclerosis. It meant that occasionally she'd lose control of her legs. Absolutely wild. She'd be on top, then suddenly fall flat on her face. Took all my strength not to crack up. Any position basically. Think about the female losing control of her legs suddenly. Probably the most interesting sex I've had to date. Not me. But my friend is dating a girl and thought the first time they had sex he was really rocking her world. Heavy breathing and gasping. Until she shoves him off and scrambles for her inhaler. Apparently she's heavily asthmatic. The next date she abruptly goes motionless. Her head lolls back, and her eyes close. He thought she was dying of some asthma complication. Turns out she's also narcoleptic. She's since got better meds for both issues. Although I heard she's dyslexic too. Her genes must be interesting. Edit, I'm not a geneticist. I was just saying it's kind of odd for one person to have those things at once. Till genetics aren't that critical in these situations. Also, I don't know the exact specifics of her conditions. This is just what she told me in casual conversation. Had a fling with a girl in college with no arm below the left elbow. She was hot and awesome. The one thing she did bring to the table was she would nub my taint during handies BJS. It was as hot and awesome as you think. My wife has cerebral palsy. She's pretty normal except for her legs can't separate much. It isn't an issue except when I try to go down on her and she almost suffocated me. Guy across the hall from me in college had no reservations with regard to partners. Brought back a deaf girl with zero volume control. Zero self-editing of the blow-by-blow that muffled things. And poor articulation. Half the floor broke into applause. She had no idea. Edit, thanks a bunch for the silver and gold. I'm a quadriplegic and I just happen to masturbate quite often, so I like to think that gives me both perspectives. Due to limited feeling in my lower 2/3, it's almost like I'm giving another dude a handy when I jerk off. But then again my hands also have limited feeling, so it also feels like someone else is jerking me off. Weird way to describe it, but there ya go. Try wrapping your mind around that. This is kinda the reverse. But I'm basically a transradial amputee on my left arm. The amount of women who have wondered aloud what the nub would feel like is staggering. Still not stuck it in anyone though. On the plus side, if my big dig is ever not satisfactory, I have a built-in plus-sized dildo. Edit, since other guy posted a picture. Might as well do the same. Size 11'4" kinda shitty scale. This thread makes me feel like I'm at a bar, listening to the best stories ever told. My friend of years was extremely autistic and wasn't ever interested in romance in the least. But one day out of the blue he asked me if I could have sex with him to show him what it was like and to see if he would even enjoy it. Honestly, did it half out of curiosity myself. But I think I messed up somehow. Now he's like a sex-crazed fiend who messages all our friends for nudes and sex. It's been 6 years but I still feel bad. She was blind. A lot more OS and oops. Also, I'm blind. Now with someone sighted. And from what I'm told the only difference is I'm a lot more interested in feeling rather than seeing. And a lot more attentive as to what gets the good reactions out of her. He's gonna hate me for posting this. But my so is a below the knee amputee. Missionary is tilted slightly to the left. If it's anywhere but a bed he has to keep his leg on. But damn, he's so sexy with his prosthetic on and nothing else. Edit, I love you guys. Yes, I showed him this and he was slightly embarrassed, but he's glad that people think that's hot and more importantly that I do. I dated someone with an inoperable brain tumor once. We hooked up for the first time drunk after a Halloween party and were full on going at it until she had a major tonic seizure. Unfortunately, she had failed to mention to me that she had epilepsy and I freaked out thinking something was horribly wrong. When she finally came to, she explained that it rarely happened during sex and was actually a very good thing. So I got to check off orgasm-induced seizure from my bucket list. My BF has muscle weakness issues. Just means some positions don't work out for him. And he can't pick me up usually. Not a huge deal though. Edit, also we'll be going at it and he'll suddenly seize up and fall over in pain for a minute while his muscles cramp up. It always makes me a little concerned when he just stops and flops over. He also has Tourette's. And one time let out a loud screech in the middle of getting busy. Had a good laugh over it. Held a moo though. Due to their blindness, they could not see how ugly I am. And they let me have the sex with them. I ducked a girl with a speech impediment. She couldn't pronounce her R's among some other abnormalities. When she started talking dirty, it took all I had to not laugh. A near-deaf girl I dated often forgot about the volume of her voice. I couldn't look the neighbors in the eye after that. I hooked up with a girl who was missing an eye, didn't ask why. Sorry. Super cute girl and she wore a very well made leather eye patch. You ever duck a pirate? It's rad. Edit, holy shit. Y'all. This is now by far and away my most upvoted comment. First, thanks whomever gave me silver. It's my first and I have no idea what it means. Second, no, I didn't stick it in her eye hole nor did I have any desire to. However, it seems I may be in the minority there. I ducked a guy with type 1 diabetes once. His blood sugar dropped super low during the act and he was feeling it. His monitor alarms were going off and everything. We had to stop and go out to eat right away. One girl I slept with was tragically born without a personality. We tried to make it work. Different topics of conversation and such. But in the end worked best as a distraction really. Ex-boyfriend of mine had a seizure as a baby and lost all use of his left arm. And it atrophied. Didn't bother me at all. Definitely didn't affect his performance either. Though I don't remember ever have sex missionary. He also worked as a landscaper. And did more with one arm than I do with both of mine. Good person. But had anger issues. I'm in a long-term relationship with a fabulous woman who is paralyzed from the neck down. I did perceive her disability to be a bit of a disqualifier before our relationship. I was a powerlifting gym bro. And pictured being with a similarly ripped gym girl who could keep up with me and challenge me. Like we could build our relationship around our fitness commitments or some bullshit. But my girl won me over almost effortless with her intelligence, wit, and personality. Nobody can make me laugh like she can. And certainly no one can challenge me to be a better person like she can. As for the gym stuff, my physical strength ended up pretty useful in helping to move her around and keep her comfortable. And she thinks I'm sexy. In a way. It seems I was training for something I could have never anticipated. The sex is fun. She's kinky. And very visually oriented. But Aside from the obvious above the neck stuff, there isn't a lot of physical feedback she can give. That can make it difficult at times. And there's always the risk of hurting her by getting too creative with positions. We were a lot more adventurous at the start of things. But through a few painful learning experiences we've found what works and what doesn't. She's in pain a lot of the time, which somewhat limits how much we can do. It's unfortunate. But we have developed some pretty good communication skills. When it's good, though, it's unbelievable. She's my best friend and I wouldn't exchange her for anyone. Edit. Also she's incredibly hot. Edit 2. And we're open to questions. She really wants more people educated about this sort of thing. Edit 3. Allow me to introduce my girlfriend. You smiling Ian. She is answering some of your questions while I'm at work. Thank you everyone for your kindness and curiosity and for the precious Reddit metals. I had an ex who had his leg amputated above the knee. More room to reach my clit during 6-4 orgasms. Otherwise pretty much the same. Wife had a stroke a couple years ago. She has a good bit of lingering disability from it. I'll not go into what all there is. She decided about a year or so after the event that she wanted to try sex. I think more for me than her. I argued with her about it and really wasn't into it to begin with. But I did eventually make the attempt. And I fully wish I hadn't. It just felt wrong. She felt wrong. I didn't finish and she never even started. We have not discussed sex since then. We both just know it's not in the cards for us anymore. And for context I'm 41 and she is 44. Edit. Wow, this really took off lol. Thank you to all the well wishes and for all the suggestions good and bad. Reading the comments both made me laugh, tear up, and think. So all in all a really good thread people. Thanks also for the gold and silver. I've never had either before. My ex-BF was paralyzed, his big dig worked and he didn't wear diapers just for your information. He was really strong so I didn't really notice that he couldn't use his legs. Ex-GF has severe narcolepsy. For once. I wasn't the reason a woman fell asleep during sex. Also after we broke up I got to make jokes about how for the past year I only slept with women who were passed out from GHB. Spoiler, it's a narcolepsy treatment that she had to take every night. No. I didn't do stuff to her while she was KO'd, except for roll her over so she didn't suffocate. I dated a deaf guy. I learned sign language. We broke up in the middle of our first fight. It just was so frustrating communicating with him because I was mediocre at sign language and also because both of us were not great at communicating our feelings and ideas. I dated a girl back in the early 2000s who lost a leg in a car accident. She was aggressively sexual to a fault. I'm not sure nympho is the right term for her. I think it was more that she used sex as a way to cope with her anger about the situation. Because her leg was removed near her hip it was easier to perform missionary than other positions. So that was typically how we had sex. It was easier for me because I could maneuver more without her leg getting in the way. Some people might say that is a shitty thing to say. But I think she would tell you that it made the sex better. Which it definitely did. She was a cool girl and I really liked her. But she had a lot of emotional issues and pent up anger that I was never really able to come to terms with, and after a while I got tired of being the punching bag she would take her anger out on when she was having a bad day. I never blamed her. She was a professional dancer before losing her leg and it held her career. She never recovered that part of herself and I could tell it destroyed her. I wanted to be that person for her. You know. Support her. But her anger just pushed me away. The sex was crazy good. Maybe some of the best sex I have ever had. But that just isn't enough to sustain a relationship. People ask me if I was ever weirded out by it. Or had issues with her missing leg. Honestly. No. After a while. It was just a normal everyday thing. I cared about her. I still think about her sometimes. Wow. Something I can actually really relate to and post about. My fiance wears a prosthetic on her left leg. As she was born with an underdeveloped leg. Not a concern at all in my view. She's the single most delightful woman I've ever met. And in bed she's the best lover I've ever had. An extremely cool byproduct of how her body has developed is that she has by and far the best as I've ever had the blessing to enjoy. As because she doesn't walk normally, a hip-driven slightly sideways gait, both of her sides need to work that little bit harder than most people do. Hence, booty of a goddess. She also has a teeny tiny little baby foot, which I think is cute as hell. Update, I didn't expect such a huge response. Thanks for the silver. And the comments made me laugh a lot. Both my girlfriend and I are pretty badly asthmatic, so like sometimes after we finished we both go straight for the inhalers. It's still great though. I have partial paralysis in my legs after an injury. I can't think my way into being turned on. I need to be touched because it's all physical. Hasn't been problem with both the men and women I've been with. However, I still have yet to be eaten out in my wheelchair lol. His deviated septum meant I had to keep switching sides to avoid the nose whistle. I don't know if this counts, but I dated a girl older than me who had some sickness that made her bones brittle. Also she had some minor autism. When it came to sex you had to be very gentle to not break her. Was an interesting experience when you were a young eager man. In high school a buddy of mine got a BJ from a girl we all suspected was mildly mentally challenged. He said she just sat there on her knees with her mouth open. No motion. No suction. No licking. Just mouth open like a doctor was checking her tonsils. He just ended up jerking off into her mouth. But she swallowed, so she got bonus points. Miso has PTSD pretty bad. Some things can really trigger her. Certain sensations especially. So I have to shave, and if we're doing more serious things it's good to have lights on so she has a sense of space. Sometimes I have to stop and comfort her until she stops dissociating. But I don't mind. Over time I've learned what triggers it so it doesn't happen much anymore. Oh man, I'm late to the party, but this is one of my favorite NSFW stories about my own life, so I have to share. While I was at university, for a few months I dated a girl with a number of health issues. She'd been born really underweight, suffered from bad joints, fibromyalgia, an inverted uterus and a host of other issues. Sex was kinda complicated, but she was fun and attractive and we made it work. She also lost her right eye due to an infection when she was a child, leaving her partially sighted with a glass eye. Once, while we were getting into a doggy style, on one particularly vigorous thrust from me, said glass eye flew out of her eye, hitting the headboard with an audible ting. I stopped, uncertain of what had happened, only for her to turn around with one eye missing and burst out laughing when I fell back in surprise. She was pretty cool. We're still friends. To this date she says that's never happened with anyone else.